for the New York Mets and their ownership group and Steve Cohen to give the largest contract in the history of professional sports to Juan Soto and bring him here and take him away from New York, the New York Yankees, and to make a statement. It's not just New York, and clearly it is. Clearly this is, I mean, whatever you want to talk, the shift of big brother, little brother, which I think is overblown, but fine. Not necessarily the shift, but just the talk of big brother, little brother. But is there a dynamic shift in New York? Did he come out and make a big move that changes the landscape of New York baseball? No doubt. It definitely is. Juan Soto was the prized possession, and we'll get into how freaking good he is. And the idea, you want to call me up and try and tell me, Yankee fan, Met fan, whatever, that this is a great player. This is an unbelievable player who deserved every penny he got because that's what the market dictated. He deserved every penny of this enormous contract. He's earned it. He's that freaking good. He's that special. And I promise you, Yankee fans, as we will start to have to find out, Plan B sucks. And whatever else you want to do to help improve a team, it will not improve you as much as signing one of the greatest hitters of his generation. A guy who knows the strike zone as well as Ted Williams and Barry Bonds. This is not only a momentous occasion for the landscape of baseball in the New York Mets. This just made the New York Mets a far better team capable of competing with the Los Angeles Dodgers or anyone else in the National League, in the National League East, and whatever. This made the Mets a much better team, plain and simple. There's nothing else they could. This is a huge move for the Mets and where they want to get to in winning a championship. And yes, it absolutely changes the landscape of this city. But more than that, I was on the podcast, Rico Broing You with Evan. And I heard Lori talk about it. And we're going to get into Juan Soto's thought process and everything. But what Steve Cohen just did, it's not just the Yankees and the Mets. Because yes, you stole a great, and not just a good, a great player right out from under the New York Yankees. He was the difference between, I know Judge was hurt last year as well, but the major difference between a team that had the worst season in the last 30 years, arguably, for the New York Yankees. They signed, or traded for, rather, Juan Soto, and they went from the ugliest, most disgusting non-playoff season with these extra playoff format, and then they went to the World Series. And I'm not saying it's just Juan Soto. Judge was healthy the whole year. You had the emergence of Luis Gil and some other people. The American League was down. There's reasons for it, but Juan Soto was the difference between the worst that we have seen and the best since 2009. He's the difference. He was an enormous part of this team. I don't know where the Yankees are without him. We could talk Plan B, and we will. It's not viable options. It's not anything that is going to make you happy. It's not anything that is going to make the Yankees as good. Could they still be good? They're the New York Yankees. They'll still be good. They'll be a playoff team. But it won't make them as good as having Juan Soto. The Mets went out there, this owner who came in as the owner holding the hand of a former executive who was going to make everything okay and not scare the other owners. And that's how he came in because he didn't want to step on any toes. And now, forget that. King Cohen has absolutely stepped on toes. He has made his grand entrance, right? And it's not just in New York. This is for the rest of baseball, as the Dodgers are the super team, and they're finding all these clever ways to put money 100 years in the future. They have $1 billion on layaway. As they've signed every big dad, Snell this year, they have Ohtani, which the Ohtani contract seems ridiculously small compared to Soto now. They got Ohtani for almost literally in real money, almost half. This is almost twice as large as the Ohtani contract. And he hits and pitches. But the Dodgers are this super team. They're doing all this. The Yankees are the Yankees. The Dodgers are changing the landscape forever. The Phillies and the Braves. The New York Mets and the richest owner in baseball. After, yes, obviously the Lindor trade and sign. Yes, he made some big moves. They've had the highest payroll in baseball for the last couple of years. He finally became what Evan, as I said, I was talking to him on the Rico, Evan had hoped he'd become. He finally became what Sal Licata has proclaimed he is, the king. This is the move. When you set up a franchise, this is what the Mets did here. He came in, he threw some money at it, more than any other team, threw some money at it, realized it didn't work, broke it down, and was waiting for this pivotal moment. This is the pivotal moment where not only do the Mets take over the city, if you like, which, again, I think you have to win, and we'll get into it, but not only do they change the landscape of this, they change who the Mets are fundamentally. The Mets are now at the head of the table with the Dodgers, ahead of the Yankees in the moment. Right there as the premier spot to go, the premier owner in the sport. They have one of the smartest young executives. They have a new manager, and they are poised after what was a remarkable second half of the season. I mean, if you think of where the Mets were when Lopez throws his glove into the stand, and from that moment, where they are now, where they go on the run. They're 11 games under 500. They go on the run. They're the hottest team in baseball the entire second half. They have these incredible, heroic victories with these unbelievable clutch moments, whether it's Pete Alonso getting off the deck after being practically run out of town, whether what happened with Lindor this year all season, and including in the big home runs in the game against Atlanta, or obviously the grand slam against Philadelphia, all those moments up until finally falling short against the Dodgers, and to right now stealing the most prized free agent in the last 25 years, winning this offseason and setting themselves up for where everyone feels good about where the team is. It's a new burgeoning, new team with a young executive, a new manager, the richest owner in baseball who just laid it on the table. The Mets made a statement to all of baseball, not just New York and the New York Yankees. There is no doubt about it. And the fact of the matter is, we'll argue whether or not Juan Soto's right or wrong. And I heard Lori, and she's 100% right. Juan Soto, when the money is this much different, where it's literally the Yankees offered him, and if you want to get it to brass tacks, the Yankees offer $760 for 16 years. And obviously the final deal is $765 for 15 years. Forget the $5 million. It's 3.5. It's 47.5 versus 51 per year. It's $3.5 million. For $3.5 million, Juan Soto chose the New York Mets. There's no other way to look at it, because we went into this thing and we ended up kind of in the same way. And I know all the Yankee fans, it's about money. Everything. It's certainly about money. It's certainly a little bit about money. But we have to be totally honest here. Hal Steinbrenner, and I got on him, my initial reaction was not enough. And I still feel that way in some ways. Like, if you're this close, do the deal. Figure it out. Get it done. But they ponied up. We went into this thing knowing, I said it, we all said it, if he wants every single dollar, he's going to be a Met. But if the Yankees come close enough, and then I went on and on and on and on about once it's over $700 million, once you surpass that final $700 million barrier, when it's the richest contract in the history of baseball, you've passed Ohtani, that's it. Once they get to $700 million, if the Yankees are willing to go to $705, I laid out the whole thing, 15 years, $705, that'll make him a Yankee, because ultimately, what's money after that? He wants to be a Yankee. The Yankees offered him $760 million. $5 million total more, $3.5 million more per year. That's it. $3.5 million. He's making 51. What's $3.5 million? Yes, the money had something to do with it, but we have to be totally honest with ourselves. And we can get into the reasons why, whether Lori, whether he chose the owner and he chose the direction of the Mets. I know Jeff Passan, I saw him on ESPN too. Whether he chose the direction of the Mets, he liked the ownership, he thinks they're willing more to spend, or whatever we think the reason might be. Or the ever popular, he didn't want to play in Aaron Judge's shadow. He'll never be the man with the New York Yankees. He's the greatest player in the history of the franchise the day he steps on the field with the New York Mets. He'll have trophies. He'll have statues. He's the guy. He wants to be the one who carries this team, blah, 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 blah. Whatever the reason may be, which, by the way, is soft, in my opinion. And we'll get to that a little bit later, too, at 888-808-1019. Whatever the reason is, there's no doubt. When it's only $3.5 million, I'm sorry, I have a tough time saying that he would have went to the Toronto Blue Jays for $3.5 million more a year. I have a tough time saying he would have went to the Boston Red Sox, or he would have went to the Oakland A's, or he would have went to the Seattle Mariners. I don't know. What I do know is that when given a choice to play for the New York Yankees or to play for the New York Mets for $3.5 million more, I don't think the $3.5 million was the ultimate decider. He wanted to be a New York Met. Between the Yankees and the Mets, he chose the Mets. He chose Steve Cohen. He chose the Mets. And we'll find out, and I can give you plenty of reasons why I think he's wrong. Why I think he made a poor decision, or why I think he sees it the wrong way, or whatever the case may be. It doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is the New York Mets and Steve Cohen came out today and made a signing that changes the landscape of this city, that finally does something this Met fan base and this Met team desperately wanted to see him do. Because whatever, Ohtani didn't want to come to the East Coast, fine. You had Yamamoto last year with the Dodgers. Yamamoto's a prized possession. Yamamoto's 26 years old. Yamamoto's a star pitcher. They had every opportunity. They decided not to do what they did today. And back then they had the same excuse that we're going to make for the Yankees now. Oh, well, he wanted to be a Dodger. Oh, and even if you would have raised the money, they would have raised the money. All the talk. Bottom line is he chose not to lay it on the table for Yamamoto. He chose not to even get involved in the Judge contract. He chose to break it down last year, send away pitchers for prospects, spend money that way, move forward, and he targeted Juan Soto. And he made it clear, because New York Yankee fans, what have we been hanging our hats on? As much as we'll say, oh, Hal doesn't have that killer instinct like his father. Hal won't go the extra mile and go and get this guy or that guy. Like, he'll get the big pieces, but he won't go get the secondary pieces, the pieces that make you a champion. He does the bare minimum, whatever nonsense you try and tell yourself. What we've all been able to hang our hats on as Yankee fans is when they want someone, they get him. When they want someone, they get him. The Dodgers are starting to turn that table, but nobody does that better than the New York Yankees. When they want Aaron Judge, he makes a phone call from the Vatican. When they want Garrett Cole, they go out and pay him the biggest contract any starting pitcher's ever got. When they want CC Sabathia, when they want Mark Teixeira, when they want Jason Giambi, when they want the big-time premier free agent, nothing stops the Yankees. Not the little brother across town, not the Boston Red Sox who can't get Bernie Williams, not anybody else. Nobody stops the New York Yankees. And not only did that end today, but it ended at the hand of the New York Mets. It ended at the hand of Steve Cohen, the richest owner, who came in with Sandy Alderson talking about not going to make waves just yet. This was the moment he's been waiting for. And he pounced. And we hear stories, the Yankees were, building momentum at 3 o'clock. It sounded like the Yankees. It was never the Yankees. Let's be totally honest. I read it wrong. We all read it wrong. If you believed it was the Yankees, it was never the Yankees. It was always going to be the Mets. Steve Cohen was always going to come in with the biggest offer. And Juan Soto would have always taken the Mets over the Yankees. And you have to live with it. And it makes me sick to my stomach, because it says more about the Yankees than it does necessarily about the dynamic of the Mets. Because I'll tell you, as a Yankee fan, I really don't care. I might be in the minority. You might not even believe me. But I really don't care about the dynamic. I don't care about the back pages. They don't exist anymore. I don't care about Big Brother, Little Brother. I honestly don't. What bothers me as a New York Yankee fan, and we can get into the Yankee aspect of it right now. What bothers me as a New York Yankee fan, and I got to be honest with you, it's not even so much the money, which I have to admit, It's an enormous offer. It's more than I thought Hal would come with. He's certainly not cheap. I think that narrative has to go away. I'm not saying he's cheap. He went out there and he offered $760 million. That is an enormous offer. He was very competitive with the Mets. When this whole thing would have started, if you would have told me that the Yankees offered $760 and he wasn't a Yankee, I would have freaking lost my mind. And I am losing my mind right now. But if you would have said, like, they're within $5 million or $3 million per year, and they're $55 million over Ohtani's contract, or the 705 I thought it would take. They went over it above and beyond. Above and beyond. So he's not cheap. But having said that, match this offer. I'm sorry. Give him the $50 million a year. Give him the $750. Give him the $765 for 15. Do it. Oh, there would have been a line in the sand. He would have kept going to the next one. I don't know that. I know that for whatever reason, $3 million is the difference between Juan Soto being a Yankee or a Met. And so I'm not going to kill Hal Steinbrenner at all because it's a reasonable offer. But I have to admit, I don't understand why he drew the line here. But having said that, that's not what even bothers me because, like I said, I do believe he chose the Mets. What bothers me the most, and I said this with Evan on the podcast, and me and Lori were kind of just talking about it as she was leaving. Juan Soto played a full year for the New York Yankees. Juan Soto went to a World Series, hit the home run that won the American League Championship and sent them to the World Series for the first time since 2009. He played with Aaron Judge, the best player in baseball, the best hitter in baseball. Still to this day, at this moment, the best hitter in baseball. He had the bleacher creatures. He had the roll call. He had everything. We talked about it when we traded for him. Oh, you get him in the building, you sign him, you teach him the Yankee way. They had a year with Juan Soto, a year to sell them on the New York Yankees. And he chose the New York Mets. That's what bothers me. What bothers me today isn't that Hal didn't give enough money, and I don't think he did. But what bothers me is he got an in-depth look at the New York Yankees for a full season. Now, I'm not saying he hates the Yankees or he wanted no part of the Yankees. People will say that. We don't know. We don't know now. We don't know exactly what his thought process is. Is it strictly that he wanted $3 million more a year and he would have taken anything from anyone? Maybe. Did he believe in Steve Cohen over Hal Steinbrenner? Possibly. I think it feels that way, but I don't know. Did he not want to be under Aaron Judge's shadow? I doubt it, but maybe. I don't know exactly what went through Juan Soto's mind. But what I know is he had a choice between the Mets and Yankees because the money was pretty much comparable. Why couldn't the Yankees, a year with having him in the building, get him more on board with the New York Yankees to not want to go across town for $3 million more a year? How did the Mets look so nice from afar when he was in there with them for a full year? That's what's pissing me off today. Because Yankee fans, you could spend it on anything. You want to talk about money? No doubt. It's a better deal. The Mets gave him more money. So if you want to fall back on that, fall back on it. You want to say, hey, it could have been the Oakland A's or just the A's now, just the Athletics. It could have been the Seattle Mariners. It could have been the Toronto Blue Jays. For $3 million, he would have went anywhere. And maybe that's true. But I don't care about that. For $3 million, he left the New York Yankees. Why? I think they have a lot of questions to answer. I think they have a lot of looking in the mirror to do because I don't know why a prime-time player like this in the prime of his career, an absolute stud, one of the best hitters we've ever seen, one of the most enjoyable players to watch that their fan base fell in love with. And I got to totally honest with you, I'm sad. I'm not even angry. I say, I'm mad about this. I'm not. I'm sad. I'm dejected. I'm sad that I'm not going to get to see Juan Soto play. I had him in my mind for the next 15 years in a Yankee uniform. The guy's the most enjoyable player to watch play the game that I've ever seen. On top of being terrific, knowing the strike zone as anyone, being clutch in the postseason, changing this lineup completely, all of that went out the window for $3 million. Why? 888-808-1019. The Mets stepped up. They are now the Kings, but here's the problem, too. Heavy lies the crown. Because now it's not just about the nice little season you had last year. Now it's not just acceptable to lose in the NLCS to the Dodgers as long as you put up a fight and win more games than the Yankees did in the World Series. That's not success anymore. There's one thing that's success, and that's winning a championship. And if you care about winning the city, if you care about who's the king of the town, if that's actually something that tickles your fancy, you haven't done anything until you win. And I think we all know that. Today's a seismic shift in the way business is done. Today changes a lot of things for who the Mets were before yesterday and who they are now. No doubt about it. But you don't become the kings of anything without championships, without rings. The New York Mets have to win now. And they're as primed as anyone. They are far better today than they were yesterday. Far, far better. And as the Yankee fan will find out, as we'll get to talking about what plan B could be and what pitchers they're going to target and what lousy hitter they're going to try and go give money to, it's not nearly as good as Juan Soto. He changed the landscape of how the Mets do business. He changed the landscape on how they're viewed in this city and across Major League Baseball. He changed the dynamics of who's the favorite in the National League East, who the best team in the National League is, who are the clear-cut contenders to be back into the World Series. This move changed everything, including my mood. 888-808-1019, because I'm pissed off, I'm sad, I'm angry. I don't even know how to react to this stupid thing. We'll take your calls, but the Yankees didn't do enough to keep him. And maybe that doesn't mean just in the writing of the check the last minute. They had a full year to sell Juan Soto and the New York Yankees, and they didn't do it. They went out and got everybody they ever wanted. And the first time they lose it, it's to the Mets in the biggest free agent in the history of the sport, the biggest contract in the history of the sport, and they fell $3.5 million per year short. That's a decision, folks. I'm sorry. We could pay it in any way you want. He had a choice, Mets or Yankees. And he chose the Mets. 888-808-1019. Your phone call's next right here on The Fan.